She don't like it. She don't like it. That's not what I needed today. What's happening? It's Ryan from R. Davis Electrical, and we are finally back with a bang. Conduit bender is out.
Yes, it is.
And what do we have today, Casper?
Some conduit.
We have some conduit work done. So we've got a couple of outside lights. The client has a very industrial look going on within the house, so they want a bit of conduit up around the French windows. You know, a couple of outside lights should be pretty easy. Get young Casper doing a bit of conduit. But why waste a bit of time? Let's crack straight into it. The hardest thing we're going to have to contend with today, this is the light switch, the internal light switch. Have checked previously, does have a neutral like I said before, but that light switch is so high, and our new light we're going to need is quite considerably higher, so we're going to obviously have to drill up at an angle. My theory would be we're going to have to come back entry of the light, and then we're going to try and have to get the cables buried in the wall, probably drill up from a terminal box at an angle, drill back up at an angle to then get up and feed across to the next light, and then again terminal box, drill down, angle through to the next light. But these are the lights in question. Very nice if you ask me, so it should all sort of tie into the whole sort of industrial look they want going on, so fingers crossed it should all work out well. Not like that, please. Definitely like that. So we'll probably go terminal box. We haven't got a huge amount. I don't want to bend it. I don't know whether it's going to look great with a right angled bend, so we're probably just going to put an angle box. We'll see. We'll have a look, see what looks better. I don't know whether the curve will look, I don't know whether straight lines would look better. Tough one. We'll see. So we have the light switch off. I have to drill a 20mm hole in here for me then to drill up with the masonry bit up at an angle. So we have to go roughly that high we've measured. There, about that high, up at an angle to come out. So we have a little mark on the wall where I roughly want to be coming out, which is there. And also I need to take into account our switch line and neutral that feeds the lights in here runs up obviously in zone, but the further I go deep and up, the further away I'm going to be. So we're through. A little bit off from where we wanted, but it's not so bad because that was going to go like that. It's now just going to drop down 5mm. So not the end of the world. Hey Casper?
Yeah, that's all right.
We're good. So the hard bit is done. I was a little bit worried about drilling that. Didn't blow it out too much as well, which is a result. So we can go ahead, get our switch line neutral through to the light, and then we can finally carry on with doing a bit of conduit work. So with the base up, we now have to drill up from the back of the base and come out roughly about here for our terminal box. So then our terminal box will go up to an angle box and then along. So now we have our terminal box, holes drilled in the back. Now I want to get the measurement for the piece of conduit that's going to go from here to our angle box at the top. So what I always done, I would mark on the wall top of our spout, and then I'll mark roughly where I want our angle box. I always want our saddles to be in the center of a brick, so I don't want to be on a course, I want to be in the center of a brick. So we're going to go for this center brick here, mark roughly edge of spout there, and then tape measure end of spout. We have 300 mil, so I know end of thread to end of thread needs to be 300 mil, and then obviously threads added onto that as well. So we had 300 mil end of thread to end of thread. So I'll mark my 300 mil line. That gives me 300 mil, but we want to add the thread onto that. So we want to be cutting on this mark and thread back to that mark. Okay, so what I will do, get your hacksaw, mark where you need to thread to, then you can cut it. Put that back in the vise. Make sure you're nice and tight. Now roughly, I know from experience that when I start threading and I just get past by a couple of threads the die here, that should give me the exact distance that I want there. So it's about, I'd say 15 mil or so. So I always like to get the thread started first, dry it, make sure it can catch, plenty of pressure. So we've just caught. Then we want to add the grease. So a little bit of grease on stocks and dies, back in, make sure we're caught. Then 1, 2, 3, 4, back. 1, 2, 3, 4, back. And then 1, 2, 3, 4. Now that, look, come through just a couple of threads there, and that should be just about perfect. There we go. So there's our original mark. Give it a nice little tap. Give it one of them. Make sure we left no burrs because these are textured. We now want to thread our boxes on and make sure they are nice and tight, so we can get that on. You never want to do these hand tight, you always want to get and give them a little once, twice. Make sure that's never coming off, and then same with the opposite side. A little once. And we want to make sure that these are spot on, level with each other. Give it a little eye up. We are good. Now our first piece is done, I am reluctant to put a saddle in here because we're going to have fixings in the box here, and we're also going to have fixings in the top here. To put a saddle on there is a bit excessive, I feel, in my opinion. So what we can do now, we want to mark our line for where our spout is on the center of this brick, and we want to get our laser up to give us a dead straight line to mark all our saddles. Casper, she don't like it. She don't like it. Doesn't like how shiny it looks.
Joking?
No. We're gonna have to pack up, try and get the black enamel conduit. So I'm not doing plastic. Yeah, plastic looks cheap. So let's pack the stuff up, and we'll come back when we got to do it. Oh mate, that's not what I needed today. So we're back. Look, got a new haircut. It is 2 weeks later and we are back at the conduit job. And we have the black enamel that Casper is getting off the top of the van. So you probably would have seen the client didn't like it. And you know what? The customer is always right. Obviously, I wanted to always do conduit because I don't like PVC, especially black PVC. It looks terrible. I was hoping to get away with doing the steel conduit. To me, the boxes look too shiny. It wasn't the conduit itself. It was the angles and stop ends were a little bit shiny. It wasn't weathered enough. They will over time weather, but I think the customer's right on this one. So we've got the black enamel and we finally get to carry on 2 weeks later. So let's get back to it and finish this job off. Set up again, black conduit. Also got some new lights to install. So the client prefers these. If we're going black conduit, then we've got black lights, and I think they look rather snazzy, to be honest. They're going to look good either side. So like I said before, up again, along, back down. I don't know if I mentioned before, but obviously the previous lights were connected. We had zero power on these. We had no continuity between the legs in between, so I don't know what the heck was going on with this job. And this was the only feasible outcome without having to chase in the walls inside. So for anyone that hasn't used black enamel conduit before, if you put this in the vise unprotected, it will chip and it will mark. So to combat that, just put a little tea towel around it. Make sure it's all tight and secure. It doesn't move, doesn't leave any marks. Also got these new Nipex Cobras. See the round teeth, and they're rubberized as well. So this will give us that little bit of extra support and stop it from turning. Now we can go on and do the 300mm cut that we did earlier on in the video. Get this cut, then we can move on, get this threaded as well. Then after that, we should be where we left off previously. Trying to get this laser line marked up, but we have an issue. If we keep this plumb and level, the line gradually, I don't know if you can see it, gradually rises quite high up. So what we're going to have to do for pure aesthetics is ping a line straight through the middle of this brick here, just so it all looks even, instead of our plumb laser line, which by the end of it actually gets all the way up to that course over there. So we're going to have to keep this off and do it the old school way of just making it look good by the eye. So as you can see, I've measured exactly the same distance from the edge of the brickwork to where my next light is going to be. Then I'm going to hold my angle box up to start marking the saddles that are going to go across. So I've got my point of my edge of my spout. I always mark the edges of my spouts when it comes to conduit work, and then I will go 200mm will be my first saddle. So I'll put a little cross where my first saddle is going to be, and I'll do that exactly the same on the other side. This is how I was taught, always first saddle 200mm. So 200mm next saddle. So 200mm next saddle. Put a little cross exactly where it's going to be, because we can barely see the laser. So I've marked the first two saddles, then we want to get the tape measure up, get that distance, and then equally divide the saddles up. I want to aim for roughly between 800 and 700mm, the distance between each saddle. That's what we're going to aim for. So we're going to get young Casper up. See the cross of the first saddle, Casper? We are 3090mm. 3090 divide by 4. So that'll give us 772.5mm. So 772.5mm, and that'll give us our equal distances between each saddle. So the reason for me marking the spout was so I can get the exact measurement from end of thread to end of thread of the conduit. So I've got my spout mark here as well. 3,495 mil we're looking at. 3,495 on my thumb. Doesn't give us a lot of play left on the end of this conduit. So that is our end of thread, and obviously we need to add the thread on. So that is going to be my cut. That is going to be the mark we thread back to. Right, we've got our tube cut to length, so we can finally start getting it up on the wall. If you're doing conduit on your own, take up a couple of saddles here, lightly catch them on 2 of them, and then you should be good to go. Now I can slightly adjust it to where exactly I need to be with then 2 saddles holding it in place. So I am good there. Pick up a couple more of the saddle tops, and now this one I can put on and tighten up. Now them saddles are tight. Obviously don't want to tighten up this one because I need a little play on the conduit so I can screw my angle box on here. So now I'm nice and flat. I can go to putting the rest of these saddles on, and then we need to make up our 300 mil bit that goes from spout of angle box down to our stopping box, and then these conduits should be exactly the same height. So again, now conduit is done, drop down. I've marked on the wall where we need to drill into the wall and up from the light. So we need to do exactly what we did on the opposite side to be able to get our cable from the back of the light back into the terminal box. So we're now fixed up on the conduit, drilled, boxes are fixed. Next stage we need to do is get this wired. We've put the cable back through from the switch you would have seen done previously. Then we want to wire round. I have put a little link in here we can tie on to just to make sure that our route from drilling up and down was spot on, so that is all good. Once we're wired, we can finally get on to putting on the 2 lights. Always fun, this bit. There she is. So what I will do, once the light's all done, a little bead of silicone, clear silicone around this box, just to make this completely watertight, because I don't want water getting in behind this box, then running down the cavity into the light. So a little bead around there, gasket, box lid, should be more than watertight. Ping my laser through the centre of this conduit so we can get dead centre for the light fitting as well. You'd see in the beezer box up here, I should have really gone bush and lock ring on there, but I couldn't find any. But I've bent the cable enough not to touch. This ain't sharp anyway because it's been filed, but yeah, usually bush lock ring, slightly recess that as well is what I really should have done in hindsight, but I haven't got any. So yeah, I've kept that cable well away from those edges. Bring that through the same hole. Okay, we're all lined up. Marksman, in, give it another go, give it another go. That's our 2 marks. Get them fixed, get this back, get them connected. So unfortunately, these lights come with connector blocks. We want to get rid of them, and we actually get some Wagos on these. Make life a little bit easier for ourselves. So lucky enough, we've got ample room within the back of this light to dress these Wagos in. a lot of the time with outside lights, you don't have a huge amount of room, and it can be a bit of a nightmare. But with this, we seem to have loads of space, so we can get that on, line up our screws. Always difficult one-handed, and then obviously these are notoriously bad. So one, we lose one, we're in big trouble. We got our boxed, we got a gasket. We even went to the trouble of spray painting the 4mm screws, so we didn't have any horrible brass screws glaring at us. So we can get these on now. Now once these are on, both lights are now up and done. All we need to do is to connect into the switch on this opposite side of the wall, and then we should all be hunky-dory. Lights are on. Conduit is butted up. Just spoke to the client and she is over the moon with it. So I am very happy. A customer is always right, of course. So that is all for today. Remember to like, subscribe if you haven't already, and we will catch you all on the next video. See you later.